You're familiar with Betrayal at House on the Hill. You're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons. Well, they are releasing a brand new version of Betrayal at House on the Hill themed around Dungeons and Dragons. As you can see behind us, it is called Betrayal at Baldur's Gate, being published by Avalon Hill, who of course is owned by Wizards of the Coast, who owns both of these, or they're both owned by Hasbro. That's a whole web of...
It's under the same umbrella.
They're all under one big old weird umbrella. So as far as we can tell, and we can't tell that much yet, it's still an early stage, this sounds pretty much identical to Betrayal at House on the Hill, just with new themes and presumably new haunts. But
I would hope so, because I feel like some of those haunts are a little weird. Like, you've all shrunken down into little people and you need to get on the toy plane.
That could easily, they would just be like a wizard shrunk you, and it's a bird instead of a plane.
I guess, yeah, but just
nailed it. Instead of the basement, it's now the catacombs. There's now street tiles and building tiles, so maybe those will play out in some different way. However, there is still a different basement landing tile, so I don't know. You still kind of have to find the basement, I guess, in this version. And
the catacomb.
And according to the contents list, it still includes plastic clips. So I'm not sure what the cards look like, but it sounds like they're using the same attribute system with those little clippy clips that we all hate.
There's only 4 attributes in Betrayal, right?
Correct.
That's interesting because there's 6 in D&D.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they might have combined a couple, or
maybe. I would like to see them actually use all 6, and that way some of the haunts can be a lot more interesting.
Yeah, that might be interesting.
I mean, it's definitely not the theme we would have thought to be announced. This actually came from a big announcement with a bunch of other Wizard stuff. I think they talked a little bit more about the deck building game, which we already talked about on the show, as well as they're bringing back, I think, a very famous old villain.
They're doing some new, for the main RPG you're talking about, right? Yeah, the story stuff.
Like those two we already knew about, and honestly make a bit more sense. This is definitely not.
It's out of left field.
Yeah.
I mean, is this something would you be excited to play this? What was your reaction when you heard it?
I mean, my reaction was sort of like, this isn't. I mean, as I was saying before, I was like, really? I mean, did I need a reskin of Betrayal?
Yeah.
And D&D, because I mean, while D&D, you can customize to be whatever you want. You know, you can make it a gothic horror or whatever and stuff. You know, it's just, I don't usually think of a traitor in D&D. So. Yeah,
no, for sure. And the way they're kind of spinning it is that maybe, like a beholder takes over your mind or whatever, or a mind flayer.
Yeah, there's little things like that, but it's not, you don't think traitor right away for D&D, usually. I mean, I'm sure that people have made campaigns and whatnot. But it's not a core mechanic of it. I mean, I could be completely right. I want to try it.
It's really, it is weird. I wonder if maybe their thought process was, Betrayal is a big gateway game. It's one of a great one to introduce new people to. It introduces you in a lot of ways to deeper mechanics in harder board games. Maybe they want to get the more casual players aware of the D&D brand. So they're trying to put that into their brains.
Really silly considering, I feel like any game, if you were to take out the list that isn't Hasbro's like Monopoly and stuff, D&D is #1. Like in terms of we just see it in common culture so much.
Well, that's true, but I think it's more of a. I think to most people that aren't role-playing game players, it's like, oh, I know what D&D is, but I would never play that, and I don't know anyone who does. Whereas I think board games have a much easier entry point than an RPG does.
But do you think by playing this, people are going to be like, okay, I'm more interested in D&D?
Maybe. I mean, little by little, it would help. I don't think it would hurt. Like if at some point they were like, oh, I remember, I know what a goblin does or whatever.
Oh, so you mean more not just the title D&D, but maybe like a beholder.
Yeah, the actual actually being immersed in that universe. And
all right, that makes a bit more. Yeah, okay. I thought you meant literally just I've heard Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, I was like,
no, from playing
I think
people who have actually played the game. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of is from what they're trying to do here, because otherwise, I mean, I have no interest in this. I already am kind of tired of Betrayal, and this is the same thing.
As of now, I mean, I want to see if I can go to like a convention where they have a public board game and play it there or something, you know.
Sure. I mean, yeah, obviously you'd want to try it, but
It
doesn't sound like it's different at all. So I don't know what they're offering me exactly.
Well, I could see the street thing being complete, like, because that means a lot more outside if you go in and out of buildings and stuff, and which could be a bit more interesting.
I mean, maybe.
But I'm curious if there's a second floor.
If the haunts and omens and stuff are interesting enough, maybe you could mix that in with the base and use this as a big expansion.
Maybe the clips will be better.
Yeah, maybe the clips will be better. So there's something to think about there, but yeah, it's weird. It's certainly weird. If you enjoyed this video, it was just a snippet of our full-length podcast, which you can find on our YouTube channel every week. So please go ahead, like, and subscribe for more board game-related content coming at you in the future.
And don't forget to check out rollforcrit.com, where we actually sell a lot of the games we talked about, as well as post news and all our other videos. Until then, I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and this is Roll for Crit.